recording now, Nick.
All right, perfect. Thanks so much. Good evening, everyone. It is May 11th, 2021, it's 5:38 p.m. Sorry, we're a little bit late today. This is the ACT Committee meeting with myself, Michael Stefano, and Lisa Dorsey. Department heads are Mike Brown and Bill Mann. So like I said, I guess it's 39 now. We'll call the meeting to order. Everyone in the participants panel looks like frequent flyers, so sure we can skip over number 2 and then move on to number 3, which is comments, suggestions, petitions by residents in attendance regarding items not on the agenda. Alrighty, hearing none, we can move on to number 4, which is to consider renewing the lease agreement. I can't pronounce that, with the Curtin ET Companions Incorporated at 24 South High, Unit A, for renewable terms until 2035.
Yeah, so this is, I'll take this. We've, Eat Chocolate, everybody's familiar with the folks that have the retail store under the parking garage. So Kristen has crafted this lease agreement, or it's actually an amendment to our existing lease agreement that puts it into like 4 terms that all consecutively would lead out to 2035. And then there's on the last couple pages of Bill, that's you'll see, there you go. There's the rent for all the different years, annual and monthly rent.
Seems very straightforward.
Yep, and the owner of Chris Curtin, he's already signed the agreement. So,
okay. Are there any questions about that?
No questions here. No.
Okay.
No questions.
I tried to get free chocolate for everyone, but he wouldn't give it to me.
Oh, well, we tried. I appreciate that, though. Are there any questions or concerns from the public in attendance today? Okay, seeing none, I think we can advance this as a 3-0. And we can move on to number 5, which is to discuss changing the Home Rule Charter on holding dual elected positions, which is in Article 2, Section 208.
Mr. Alan Bernie Flynn.
Sure.
I'm going to be the one presenting this article to you this evening. What you see on the screen is what I have in front of me. Was sent to Mr. Mann for us to review. We all lived through the last election where where Mayor Herron was appointed, or actually elected to the House of Representatives in Harrisburg, and she decided to stay in office longer than after she was inaugurated, and she resigned on I think the 18th of February, 11:59. But as you can see, this letter in front of you, a group of residents have given this to me. More specifically, they want to change she said the last 2 mayors vacated the office before fulfilling their elected term, and it created a great deal of discussion, both legally and ethically, for holding 2 offices simultaneously. Our position is that an elected official cannot appropriately represent 2 different sets of constituents, even when there is an overlap in geographic area. It is not fair to borough residents to have a share the time and energy of the mayor if their time is split between multiple roles. While the mayor's position is not a full-time position, it does require a certain number of office hours and availability each week, and other elected positions are full-time roles. Candidates are elected for a specific role, and we do not believe that they are adequately perform both roles at the same time, even if only for a short time. In order to address the concerns of holding 2 offices simultaneously, we propose an update to the Article 2, Section 208F of the Home Rule Charter. we researched what other jurisdictions state are holding multiple offices, and we proposed the following change. Currently, Section F states, no individual shall at the time hold more than one elected borough office. We propose the following statements to replace that one. No individual, this is the change that the residents are interested in us changing the home rule charter, which I fully support because it makes sense. No individual shall at the same time hold more than one elected office of any type, including borough, school district, county, state, or federal. The qualifications for taking of an oath for the second elective office by any person shall operate to vacate any other elected borough office held by that individual. It basically says that once you take the oath of office for your next job, you have to relinquish your position in the borough at that given time. And the residents are hopeful that the Borough Council will adopt the language immediately. So it's pretty simple. You know, currently Mayor Herron didn't do it, and we defended her the entire time. She did nothing wrong at all by staying in office. Mayor Comita stayed in office, I believe, up until March. So there's nothing in our home rule charter that says that you can't hold two elected offices outside of the borough. So the individuals, the residents want us to adopt a change or a modification to our home rule charter. So what do you say?
I have a quick question about part of your letter here. It says we researched what other jurisdictions state on holding multiple offices. I'm just curious what the results of that research were, and if you could point me in the direction of, I'd just be interested to read up on what other people are doing.
I'm going to have to get back to you on that.
Sure.
I was hoping that one of the people that actually gave me, she's on the line right now, matter of fact. If you can unmute yourself, Beth Rossica, you'll be able to explain to Mr. Allen where you actually researched the various other jurisdictions.
Sure. Thanks, Bernie. Hi, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity to talk with you today. So we looked at a couple of different languages. We looked at this particular language, I believe, came from the state of Virginia. We looked at the state of New Jersey, and we did look at some other local ones. I don't have that in front of me today. I didn't know that you were going to ask me that question, but I could certainly get my notes together and send them over to you guys if that would be helpful.
That would be helpful. So you're saying the state of Virginia and New Jersey, do they both have something in place preventing that now?
Yes, I believe, and again, I have to go back through the notes. I believe that we crafted this language based on what Virginia currently has in effect, and New Jersey has something similar. I don't know that it's 100% the same, but again, I can get you those citations if that would be helpful.
Yeah, I'd love to see those for sure. Yep. I appreciate that.
Whose attention should I send those to?
I mean, you can send them to me.
Okay, that would be great. I can get that done for you tomorrow.
Sure, I'll put my email in the chat.
I know what your email is. That's good. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Are there any questions? I guess, Mr. Stefano, we can head your way.
Yeah, I think this sounds like it makes sense, but I don't see the conflict as much. I think it's because I have a full-time job that I work at, teacher, and I'm also a council member. And if Diane Herron became, or any person who was the mayor became a full-time House rep, was that not also a full-time job and then also can be mayor at the same time? So if there's a conflict between these two jobs, then isn't there a conflict between my two jobs? And I just don't see it being as that big a deal. I also think that there's a lot of people that put the mayor on a pedestal. And I don't think this is that big a deal, but I'm not if this is gonna, the council's gonna go and the wind's gonna blow that way, I'm not gonna like fight it. I'm not gonna die on this hill against it. But that's my.
Could I just respond to that, Mike? Is that okay?
I'm not the chair of this committee.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Go right ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Allen. So from my perspective and the group that we work together to look at the language change, some of it is about, sharing office hours and splitting time. But I think the real issue comes down to representing the constituents. So I think for Mike, the difference between being a teacher and being an elected official is that as a teacher, you're paid to do a job and you put in your time to do that job, but you haven't been elected to represent the students or the parents, that you're working with. In the example of having 2 elected offices, you're expected to represent the best, represent the wishes or the needs or represent the constituents of 2 different jurisdictions. And I think that there could be a conflict between representing both the people in the geographic area for state rep versus the folks in the borough. And so we didn't think that that was good practice to try to represent 2 different groups of people simultaneously. Thank you.
If I could actually I'm a little bit curious about this point because if I could push against that, if we're being represented twice by the same person, wouldn't that in theory be to our advantage and maybe to the disadvantage of East Goshen? For example?
I think it could go either way. I mean, and that's why I think that it's not good practice for anybody to try to represent 2 different groups of people, even if there is some overlap. So yes, to your point, it might be advantageous for us and worse for the other group, but I just don't think that that's good practice ethically or morally in either instance.
I totally understand where you're coming from. And I think it does present kind of a tough choice for whoever that candidate is. Because we all want to do a good job. And it can be hard to be, interrupted in the middle of the term. And if I'm thinking selfishly as someone in the borough, I think it's kind of great that we have a state senator and a state rep all in the borough personally. But I'm not trying to negate your point at all, though. I understand why this could be viewed as like a little bit cloudy. So, and I do appreciate you bringing it up. Ms. Dorsey, do you have any questions?
I actually had the same question you did, Mr. Allen. Thank you. Around the research, Ms. Rosica, that you've done. So I'd be very interested in seeing that. And just wondering, if you can be I guess I'm curious what's really driving this. Were there incidents where Mayor Herron or Mayor Comita weren't effectively acting as mayor during that period? And it was a very short period of time. It's not like it lasted for years, but is there a period of time where residents felt that they were not being represented by the residents of the borough by the mayor?
Well, I don't know that. Sure. No, I appreciate your question. I think that it's really more around the idea that people, both Mayor Comita and Mayor Herron, went on to other offices, which is great. Congratulations, and that was great for them. But once they made that decision to do that, I just don't think that they could put their energies and efforts into the borough in the same way as prior to being elected to their new roles or offices. So I don't necessarily have any specific dereliction of duties, if that's what you're asking for. It's really more just around the idea that we shouldn't have people holding 2 offices simultaneously for, any period of time. And even though it's just a couple of months, it just doesn't seem effective to have somebody holding 2 offices at the same time. And I think that it would be, interesting to hear from the voters, if you're wanting to look at getting feedback from a wider audience than just me and a group of citizens that got together to look at this. I think it would be interesting to see what voters think and what the community thinks about holding two offices simultaneously.
Yeah, thanks. I think that's a fair, I'm not sure how we would go about that. Mr. Crone, I don't know if you have any insight,
Well,
what options we would have.
yeah, well, I mean, I would, I think it would behoove all council members to talk to their constituents to see if, it's something that your constituents think you should change their home rule charter for. And I think if you just take a step back, I think you need to take the names of Diane Herron and Carolyn Committ out of the picture. As Bernie said, neither one of them did anything incorrectly or illegally. They followed the law. Both times this happened, though, there were a number of folks who were interested and concerned about it. And when the questions came up about Diane Herron, I look back at our notes from our attorneys from when Carolyn did it, and the legal research had already been done. So it came up again. So it is concerning to some people. And I will add this, I said, there was, even though Diane Herron and Carolyn Committ both resigned, there was no obligation for them to resign. They could have served their entire mayoral terms also at the same time. And I think that's something that you really need to think about. Like was there anything that was, life shattering that happened over the, 2 or 3 months where they were serving dual roles? I don't know. You'd have to ask them for that. But if it was longer than that, if it was, 2 years or 3 years, it might be a different, you might get a different answer. So just my 2 cents.
So, I mean, what I might suggest is, obviously we're not really, I'm trying to think, when's the next opportunity that this could even happen? Be probably about 1.5 years, potentially, if whoever's our next mayor. I don't know. I guess in theory it could happen. I think we got some time to iron this one out, though.
Well, it could happen. It could happen anytime. Like right now, you could run. Any council member could run for a school board position.
Yeah, that's fair.
So or if I was on council, I could run to be president of the United States.
God forbid.
But yeah. I mean, that's what I mean. You have to remove the names of our 2 mayors that this happened to, and it could happen to other positions, other people, other circumstances down the road.
Nick, I have a quick question.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Thank you. Isn't a home rule charter amendment, isn't that by referendum, not by borough council vote?
That's a good question, Jordan. I haven't looked into it yet, and you may be correct. This may have to go to the voters anyway.
So what I suggest in that case is, if we're going to look to amend our home rule charter, it has to go by referendum. I suggest we take a whole look at the home rule charter and see any other changes we might want to make as well. That's all.
Sure, I appreciate that point. Are there any other questions or comments from anyone else in attendance?
Mr. Allen, Don.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I support the change. Reason is the concept of serving 2 masters. With the amount of time that you would be spending in Harrisburg and with so many more issues than what we have here, I would want that person to spend all their efforts on that, because it involves a lot of other different communities, not just us. But at the same time, I would expect the mayor to be available for all the things that the mayor needs to be available for. So I support this language.
Mr. Allen, Bernie Flynn.
Sure, go ahead.
All right, so to wrap this thing up, there's a lot of discussion on both sides again. Like Mr. Prone just said, the mayor if the mayor had 3 years left on their term, they could say mayor and state senator, or mayor or coroner, who knows? But the next step I think we need to do now that the Mayor Norley brought up, we have to see if it's a referendum type thing. So if it is a referendum type thing, then I guess what we need to do is have council talk about it, and then if they all agree that it should be changed, then we put it on the next ballot, I guess. I guess that's what we do. But Perone has to actually look up to see if it's a referendum type thing.
Sure.
But thanks for taking the time to go through it for me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think it's a good conversation to have, definitely. So I guess if there's no other comments, what I would suggest is, I mean, we do have, no one on council or the mayor is running for school board, so we do have some time. So I would suggest that we all do a little bit of homework between now and next month. So if we could look into what the actual process would be for changing the home rule charter like this between now and next month, that would be good. I think on the elected side, what we could do on council is start to gauge some of our constituents to see, if there's any, I don't know how we could do that, maybe reach out to people on Facebook or something and try to get a sense of what the community thinks or what our constituents think. I think that would make some sense. And then on the constituent side, if we could just get more of the research that you guys have done, I think that would guide our next steps pretty well. Are we all okay with tabling this for next month with that in mind?
I am, Mr. Allen.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
All right. Are there any, before we move on to the minutes, are there any other final comments that we'd like to make before we do that?
I would just like to say thank you to the committee for hearing the proposal and for being willing to discuss it further. And I will, in the next couple of days, pull together that information and email it to you, Mr. Allen. So thank you for your consideration.
Great, I appreciate that, and I can forward it to the rest of the committee as well, just to make sure we're all on the same page. I appreciate that. So I think we're good to move on to number 6, which is to approve the April 2021 minutes. I did not have an issue.
All good to me.
No issue.
All right, excellent. Trying to see here, just to make sure I didn't miss anything. I think we're back on schedule tonight then. Is there any other business? All right, then at 6:01, we're going to call this meeting adjourned. Thanks, everyone.